Hello, thank you for your interest in the Transportation Planning Board's Community Advisory Committee. The Transportation Planning Board, also known as the National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board, or the TPB. The TPB is the federally designated metropolitan planning organization for the metropolitan Washington region. The TPB works with local, state, regional, and federal partners to coordinate future plans, to provide data and analysis to decision makers, and to promote regional programs that advance safety, land use transportation connections, and more. The TPB is housed at the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments and also hosts a variety of committees, just like the Community Advisory Committee. The Community Advisory Committee was established in 1992 as the region was working to develop plans for the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. The CAC has been an integral part of the Transportation Planning Board as they provide independent, region-oriented community advice to the Transportation Planning Board on transportation plans and issues facing the region. There are at least 5 members from each jurisdiction: Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia, with 9 additional members to ensure that the CAC represents the diverse perspectives and experiences in the metropolitan Washington region. There are 3 components to the CAC mission. The first is to promote public involvement in transportation planning. The second is to advance equitable representation in regional transportation plans. The third is the CAC provides independent, region-oriented community advice to the TPB on transportation plans and issues in the region.
I decided to become a CAC member after I attended the CLI, the Community Leadership Institute, because I wanted to understand how things get done, how things work, how things intersect, how everything, poverty, injustice, inequity, they all intersect at certain places. And then I started to see transportation and transportation planning as one of those intersections.
I guess I became a CAC member because I have a primary interest in supporting really the greater regional interoperability of our transportation systems, across different modes. Doing this across the DC metropolitan area really isn't easy, and it takes time. A former board chair, actually one of my clients, said recently at a meeting just before his retirement that when you're entering a new role, you always want to ask why, but it's also just as important to ask, why not? And I think that's really important to do in the planning process.
I got involved with the CAC as a result of being a member of a local project, Citizens Advisory or Community Advisory, and I realized that what goes into planning a project depends on many things. Community input, yes, but if you're going to provide community input, it's important to know what else goes into it, all of the multifarious stakeholders and economic drivers, and understanding why a project is important for each and every stakeholder. So I did take the Community Leadership Institute, and that opened a whole world for me of understanding sort of how all the pieces of not just transportation, but the region fit together. And I became very interested in that, and I jumped at the opportunity to become a member of the CAC as a result of going through the Institute.
What I take back is I can help a community see how, transportation decisions, whether it's, bus networking, how our freights work, where a community gets zoned to do certain things, that I help people see how all of those things intersect. I help I can take back to the community that, you know, just creating a pedestrian-only street will not solve all the other problems that a community will be challenged with when you're developing a community, when you're working on a plan for the future. So that what your needs are when you're 20 and 30 are not going to be the same needs that you will have when you're, you know, 60 and 70 and 80 and older.
What I take back is really by serving on a local civic association, where I've served as chair of the transportation committee, and I share information about the TPB with fellow committee members, other members of the civic association, as well as with friends and neighbors and colleagues, really just in general, to help raise awareness about the long-range transportation plan and its importance and the process that's used to create it, and really the opportunities, and I think this is most important, the opportunities to contribute by providing feedback and encouraging others to really get more engaged in the process.
After joining the CAC, I started going to meetings of the actual Transportation Planning Board, seeing our elected officials at work. So that was a learning experience to see how the region has to work together. But also the technical information, the more purely planning information, also understanding aspects like safety, which is really important to local communities, and all of the environmental related studies that are undertaken, and learning how the region does or has difficulty working together and why. And it also adds a dimension to why local projects are important to make the whole network work.
Coming into the CAC, I meet people from all over this region, and I get to absorb the knowledge that they bring. I get to hear about the things that they're most interested in. I get access to, you know, a staff at at TPB that are willing to answer our questions, and I think that's invaluable for us. And also access to our elected officials, those people that are supposed to be representing us, that we vote into office, and being on the CAC allows me to have access to not only the elected officials in the District of Columbia, but also in this region.
So what I take personally out of my involvement as a CAC member is a greater awareness and a sense of place, and a deeper appreciation of the process that's required to gather and collect all the information that's needed to produce a long-range transportation plan. It's an immense effort, but it's also an appreciation of the rhythm and the pace of change, right? Which sometimes happens in unexpected ways, such as the impact that COVID had and the differences we've seen in demand on various modes and the shift of travel patterns. I think that's really made me appreciate the process even more, and I'd say focus even more acute on what the opportunities might be, to promote greater mobility across the region.
I found it a really wonderful experience to get to meet people from all over the metropolitan area and to meet the planners. One of my main reasons for continuing with the group is having been a member of advisories for project planning. I've noticed that there's not a great deal of public engagement going on as proactively or as fully as there should be. And I don't think that planners always understand, because there's other drivers, that if you have community feedback, you end up with a better project. You could do study after study and look at all kinds of data, but the people who live in an area really know how things work and where people are going and why. It's the most integral thing you could possibly omit. So it's great to be able to be at the CAC and reinforce that conviction.
So if you're interested in applying to become a member of the Community Advisory Committee, applications will go live every 2 years. The application period consists of an interested person submitting an online or paper application. Paper applications are available upon request. The application is pretty simple and asks you a couple of basic questions to learn more about you and about your experiences. If you're interested in learning more about the next application period, be sure to follow the Community Advisory Committee's webpage, follow the TPB on social media. We have a Facebook and Twitter page, or sign up for TPB News, which is our email newsletter that goes out on a periodic basis. Expectations for CAC members include serving on the committee for 2 years. In addition, you will attend monthly meetings that happen every month except for the month of August.